Gracias. My name is Gracias.
What is up, everyone? It's DJ Garcia, Raymond Garcia, and today we are going to review a non-spoiler review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. First off, please go see this movie. For me, it may be better than the first one, and I only seen it once, okay, last night. So the thing that I think was better than the first film is that this movie is more funny. There's more jokes in this film, it's more entertaining. Like, there's literally jokes constantly throughout the movie, and they're not forced. That's what I like. They're natural jokes. None of them felt forced, maybe a couple of them, but most of the time I was laughing. I was dying, you know, at some parts. Something I also liked was the visuals. I liked the visuals in the first one, and then when the trailers came out for Volume 2, I could just already tell the visuals in this movie are just amazing to look at, especially when they're like in space and stuff. It's just amazing, especially the planet that they're on. There's even a scene, real quick, it's not really a spoiler, but there is a scene with Kurt Russell, and they kind of make him look younger, and so they of course use CGI, and it looked damn good. He looked like a younger Kurt Russell. It kind of scared me of how good it was. It looked like him, bro. The next thing I liked about this movie the most, this is probably the biggest positive for me, is that the character interactions of the movie, they really step it up. What I mean by that is that first off, they develop these characters even more, and that they do character interactions with people you didn't think would interact. And so first off, you have a lot of relationships that they explore, and friendships and everything like that. They have Nebula and Gamora explain their sisterhood. Of course, there's Ego as the father of Peter Quill. They explore that relationship. You have Mantis and Drax, which I didn't even think. They have quite a few scenes together, which is just they're funny and also amazing. And then the biggest surprise of them all was Rocket Raccoon and Yondu. They have quite a few scenes together, and they form kind of a friendship. It was like all these interactions with these different characters. It was really cool. But with that, it brings emotion. There's a lot of emotional scenes, which is actually another positive in this thing. There's so much emotion, like sad scenes, and one of them is with Mantis and Drax. One of them is with Gamora and Nebula. One of them is with Rocket and Yondu. I mean, there's a lot of sad scenes in here. Even Peter and his dad. There's just so much emotion, like scene after scene, so sad. And then the whole ending conclusion, that's pretty sad too. But it all ties into the theme. I do remember reading somewhere that the first film, I think James Gunn said this, he said the first film is about finding family. This movie is about being a family, and those things are two different things. This movie is about being a family, trying to be one, how to be one. By the end of the movie, you actually see that they all come together and take down this threat and this villain that you have, and they all become a family. And it's just really, really powerful message. This is why this may be better than the first movie. I really like the theme. Again, real quick, they do develop characters a lot. They develop the biggest development for me would be Yondu and Nebula. They develop Yondu really cool, and Nebula, look, you hate Nebula in the first movie, she's trying to kill her sister, but in this movie, you understand her character even more. You understand why she does things that she does. You understand why she hates her own sister Gamora and why she tries to kill her. Stan Lee's cameo was just amazing because, you know, there's a certain group of people that he's with. When you see Stan Lee's cameo, of course you see Stan Lee and he made me laugh, but there's people around him, comic book characters around him, and if you don't know comic books, you're not gonna know who they are. But me, I knew instantly who they were, who he was talking to, and it was it may be one of my favorite cameos already. So the soundtrack of the movie is just as good as the first one. So now we're gonna move on to the negatives of the film. There's really not too much. There's only a couple. There's a slight pacing issue that I had. This movie felt really long. I think the problem I had was in the middle. In the middle of the movie, I was like sitting in the theater, and I said this as I was watching. In my head, I was like, there hasn't been an action scene in like a minute, man. Like, and then you do get one. You get one with Yondu and Rocket. You get a little action scene. It's kind of an action scene, but it's more of a comedy scene. Again, I was just talking about the soundtrack. Usually the soundtrack's just put over the scene, and it makes it kind of funnier and better. It was a cool scene, but it doesn't drive the story forward or anything. You know, it was more of a comedy scene to me. Speaking of story, that's actually my last and only like negative. You don't really dive into the story until like the very end, and I noticed that too. So the first two acts, the beginning and middle, again, that's why I kind of have a pacing issue. It's just all this stuff that happens with the characters, and then at the end, when the characters find out what the problem is, they dive straight into the conclusion, you know, the last action set piece. But it all happens at the very end. They find out what the problem is. They don't have time to create a plan or anything. They find out the problem and they go straight into the action fighting. And then of course they're gonna solve the problem. They save the galaxy. Of course can't tell you how or what or when, but that's what happens. You find out the problem at the very end of the movie, and then that's about it. So you know, the first movie, I think the first movie just had more story to it, because in the first movie, Peter Quill, he finds the orb at the beginning of the film, and the whole movie is centered around that orb, and that's at the beginning. In here, you find out the problem at the very end, and it's solved at the end. The first one has more story, this one not so much. That's really all the negatives I have of this film. I mean, I'm sure there's more somewhere, maybe like little. But that is my non-spoiler review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Please go see it. If you haven't, go watch it. It is amazing. You will have fun. I do want to talk about the post-credit scenes. There's 5 of them. Please stay to the very, very, very end, because there's 5 post-credit scenes, and for me, they were all amazing, okay? So they were all really good. Stay for all of them. But if you guys like this review, please give this video a like. It would really help me out. Comment down below. Let me know what you've seen the movie. Let me know what you think about it. And if you want to see more on my channel, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.